Is there a doctor among the passengers?
Lately, I've not even heard such a line in TV dramas. So when I heard it, I thought for a moment that it must be someone's joke. But looking at the flight attendant's face, it seems they were really looking for a physician. However, after watching for a little while and seeing no doctor coming forward, I said, "Yes, I'm a surgeon." Hearing my words, the flight attendant, with a slightly relieved expression, said,
Thank you. Please watch your step as we head this way.
and began to lead me towards the back of the plane. My ex-girlfriend, who seemed to have no idea what was happening, said in a strong tone as I started to follow the flight attendant,
What? You're lying. You're just a janitor, aren't you?
I hadn't been saying anything because it was a hassle, but I couldn't keep quiet anymore. My name is Smith. Not to brag, but I think my life has been quite a roller coaster so far. But I never thought such a coincidence would actually happen. This incident occurred a few months ago on a plane when I was going back to my hometown. It takes about 2 hours by plane from where I live in Seattle to my hometown in Miami. Fortunately, it's a connection between major airports, so despite the distance, it's an easy location to get back to. But I hadn't been home for 3 years due to work. I'm already 36, a full-grown adult, but returning to a familiar place is still something that makes me happy, no matter how old I get. When it was time to board, an announcement was made for passengers to enter the plane. I boarded the plane, trying to control my excitement and maintaining my composure. I took my assigned window seat, fastened my seatbelt, and put on my earphones. Basically, my routine when flying is to listen to music and sleep from the moment I sit down until I get off. It's been a while since I've had this routine since I don't fly except to go home. As I thought about this, waiting for sleep to come, I noticed the flight attendants were a bit restless. Apparently, one of the passengers who was supposed to be on board hadn't shown up yet. Well, it happens sometimes, and I'm not in a hurry myself. I didn't think too much about it and decided to wait patiently for departure. But then I noticed that the seat next to me was empty. Since this flight was supposed to be full, the person who was late might be the one in the seat next to me. Soon after, it seemed that the late person had finally boarded.
I'm sorry for the trouble.
A high-pitched woman's voice echoed through the cabin, and the voice gradually came closer. Then it stopped at the seat next to me, so I realized it was indeed the person next to me. With the flight attendant's assistance, I shoved my large luggage into the overhead compartment. Suddenly, a bag filled with what appeared to be souvenirs fell towards me.
Are you all right? I'm terribly sorry.
The flight attendant immediately said, "But,"
I hope my cute little tart isn't broken.
said the woman responsible for dropping the bag on me, who was sitting in the next seat. Her concern for the souvenirs made me feel like she might be a bit of a quirky person. Although it was just a 2-hour flight, I became slightly uneasy and glanced at the woman beside me. To my surprise, I recognized the face, and I inadvertently let out a word. "Ava." The woman also seemed surprised by my words and quickly looked at me. Then, after staring at my face for a few seconds, she grinned and said,
Oh, if it isn't the high school dropout janitor. How have you been?
To begin with, I didn't want to engage in a friendly chat with her. I simply reacted to seeing a familiar face in an unexpected place. To be frank, I never wanted to see her again. She has always looked down on me. However, I knew that picking a fight over it would do no good. So I simply responded, "Yay, I'm good. Nice to see you're doing well, Ava," and attempted to put my earphones back in. I thought neither of us wanted to talk any further. But surprisingly, Ava felt otherwise.
You think I look well? Well, I do take good care of myself with facials and massages, but I'm really exhausted every day. I have to constantly attend my husband's business dinners and parties, and there are school and extracurricular activities with the kids as well.
Ava started talking about herself like this without being asked. "Oh, is that so?" And Ava continued to talk about herself without paying any attention to my response.
Oh, I didn't tell you, did I? I got married. My husband's the same age, 33, and he's a doctor. We have more than enough money, but he's just so busy. I knew my husband would be busy, but I was surprised that even I, as his wife, would be so overwhelmed. Well, these are problems only celebrities have. So you, a high school dropout janitor, Wouldn't understand at all. I envy your freedom, even without money.
The one-upmanship had begun again. Is that so? You must be tired. It seemed that she finally realized that I wasn't interested in the conversation. With a slightly irritated expression, she said,
You're still as dull as ever, even if you live a free and easy life. I'm truly glad I didn't marry someone like you. You're still single, aren't you? What a pity you let go of a good woman like me.
yes, this woman, who constantly asserts herself, is genuinely my ex-girlfriend. Ava and I dated over 15 years ago. Back then, I was 19, and Ava was in high school. We met through a friend's introduction, and we dated for about a year. Even back then, Ava liked flashy clothes, was very self-centered, and had many troublesome aspects, just like now. But at the time, being my first experience dating a woman, I thought that's just how women were. And while I felt it was a lot to handle, I remember having moments of happiness. Because Ava was younger, I could even find her self-centeredness and assertiveness charming. However, that relationship changed in the fall of the year Ava became a college student. She fell for a senior in college but was quickly rejected. Of course, I understood that not all couples who date end up marrying and living together. I also knew that it's common for one to be rejected or to reject someone. But at that time, I was still young. And although I wasn't specifically thinking about marriage, being rejected for the first time was an experience I remember as very painful. Furthermore, the words Ava spoke as we broke up pushed me even further into distress.
When I was in high school, I didn't think too much about it because I was naive, but having a janitor as a boyfriend is really embarrassing. On top of that, the pay is low and there's no chance for a raise. Being a high school dropout and poor is not good at all, right? I don't see any point in being with you anymore. I'll find someone suitable for me, so you should try to find someone within your league too.
I didn't stubbornly refuse when she said we should break up, nor did I act aggressively. I thought if Ava felt that way, I had to accept it gracefully. But why did she have to say all that? I work hard at my job, just like anyone else. Is what I'm doing really that shameful? It's just a heartbreak, but at that time, it felt like everything about me was denied. It became a turning point for me to seriously think about my life, so I could say I'm grateful for it now. Still, I can't justify the harsh words Ava threw at me. I'm the one who wouldn't want to marry you anyway. I somehow swallowed those words and kept nodding along to all his boastful stories.
Look, this is my husband. Doesn't he look younger than his age?
That's what she was saying as she showed me her family photo, Ava. I honestly don't care now, but why would an ex-lover show me pictures of her current husband and family? She really hasn't changed. In a bad way, I was thinking when
Is there a doctor among the passengers?
I heard that line, something you hardly even hear in movies anymore. I thought it was someone's joke, but from the flight attendant's expression, they were really looking for a doctor.
Really? What's happened? It's like a movie scene. Too bad my husband's not here. Unfortunately, all I have with me today is an inept high school dropout who's a janitor.
Even at a time like this, my ex-girlfriend couldn't resist a sarcastic remark. I wasn't in the mood to care about that in an emergency. But even after waiting a bit, no doctor came forward.
Oh my, what are we going to do?
Ava was acting as if she was watching a movie or something, totally indifferent. I pushed past her and said, "Yes, I'm a surgeon in New York." Hearing my words, the relieved flight attendant said,
Thank you. Please, this way. Watch your step.
and began guiding me to the rear of the plane. Ava, completely unable to comprehend what was happening, said,
What are you lying for? You're just a janitor.
She spoke sharply as I started to follow the flight attendant. I had avoided telling her, but I couldn't stay silent now. That's a story from years ago. I'm a doctor now. Hearing those words, Ava couldn't hide her surprise. However, I had no time to deal with that, so I hurried after the flight attendant. To make a long story short, someone had collapsed due to a worsening chronic condition, but I was able to administer first aid on the spot. There was no need for an emergency landing, and the situation stabilized. I've been a doctor for several years, but this was a first for me. I was definitely nervous, but I'm relieved that nothing serious happened. I thought I was free from the tension as I returned to my seat, but that was short-lived. Ava wouldn't let me go that easily, and she cornered me after we landed.
What was that all about earlier? Are you really a doctor?
She still seems doubtful. It's true, I wouldn't lie about something like that. No matter how many times I said it, she wouldn't believe me, so I showed her things that might convince her, like a photograph taken to commemorate getting my medical license, pictures from my workplace farewell party, and the like. Then she said,
That's not just any hospital. It's K Hospital. It's much more prestigious than where my husband works.
She seemed somehow frustrated. This is why I didn't bother telling her in the first place. Being a doctor, where you work, the size of the hospital, none of that matters. It's all equally important work. I just got lucky to get into this hospital. Don't you think it's about time you stopped ranking people like that? It's wearing you and everyone else out. It's true that the hospital where I work is what's referred to as a major hospital. But I didn't become a doctor or choose this well-known hospital because I wanted status or fame. It was after breaking up with her, when I was in despair, that my grandmother, who was sick and eventually passed away, taught me that a person's charm doesn't come from education or job. It's about what you put your heart and soul into. That's what matters. I wanted to become a person like the doctor who took care of her, whom she seemed to respect so much. The idea of a junior high school dropout, working as a janitor, growing up, and becoming a doctor seemed entirely unattainable. At first, that's what I thought, but just as my grandmother said, I wanted to choose what I would passionately pursue in life. As a result, I spent a long time becoming a doctor, and I was able to get a job at the current hospital where the doctor who treated my grandmother well worked. People choose the profession of being a doctor for various reasons, and even if those reasons are status, honor, or money, I don't think that's wrong at all. Whatever the reason, it's an undeniably noble job that helps others, and I understand that better than anyone. Ava seems to have married a doctor, but doesn't seem to quite understand this. And though I expected it, it's still very disappointing.
Don't get all high and mighty. You've just clawed your way up from being a junior high dropout and a janitor. Don't get sassy and lecture me.
I didn't intend to lecture her, but it seems it didn't get through. Well, I have no reason to try any harder to get my point across. But then a man who appeared to be Ava's husband approached with their 2 young daughters.
Dear, you must be tired.
I don't know what the circumstances are, but the fact that he came to Miami earlier with his young daughters, his kind words, made me think that there must be happiness in something other than the status and honor that Ava was bragging to me about. Shouldn't Ava notice these aspects more? I couldn't say such things, but Ava looked somewhat guilt-stricken. Then, her husband noticed me and said,
Are you Dr. Smith from K Hospital, by any chance?
The medical world is small. If you work in the same city, your face is generally known. Especially as a new surgeon like me, I can be the focus of attention from other specialists, so it was not unlikely that Ava's husband knew me. Then, sure enough, yes,
I knew it. I read your paper last year.
Ava's husband started talking, looking pleased.
I've admired you, so I'm glad to meet you.
He ended up saying that. Unaware of this, Ava, who had been bragging about her husband's profession, found out that her husband was treating me as an object of respect and looked extremely frustrated. I didn't really want to punish her in this way at all. But to be honest, I don't feel bad about it.
Ava, I never told you about Dr. Smith, so you must have researched him beforehand and recognized him. So you spoke to him, right?
Well, it seemed that Ava's husband was interpreting things quite conveniently for her, and I didn't bother to correct him. Then, finally, she stopped giving me hostile looks.
Yes, that's right. I wanted to help you.
And started to go along with the story. Whether it's about the relationship from 15 years ago, or the terrible things she said to me, or her rude boasting just moments ago, talking about it here doesn't benefit me at all.
So, we'll be going now. If we meet again, it'll be good to see you.
Her husband nodded briskly and left. Mel followed him, walking along. The daughters were smiling happily. Seeing them like that, I thought maybe Ava doesn't boast about trivial things in front of her current husband. I flew back home for the first time in several years and met a nostalgic person I didn't want to remember. Honestly, it felt awful at first, but it seemed like a new opportunity to reflect on my life. Having achieved the goal of fulfilling my dream of becoming a doctor even after growing up, I might now consider marriage. No matter what the past holds, I feel like I've seen the goodness of building a happy family.